The cold wind howled through the narrow streets of Springfield that Monday morning. Snow blanketed the sidewalks in thick white silence, but inside the modest house on Maple Street, there was no peace. Only the sound of a fork scraping across a nearly empty plate and a man's voice that cut through the room like ice. "Maybe if you spent more time on a treadmill and less time eating, we wouldn't be where we are," Jason muttered, not even looking at her. Laura sat across from him, her cheeks red from more than just the cold. She pushed her plate away and stood, the wooden chair creaking beneath her as she did. At nearly 300 pounds, she was used to sounds like that. The world always seemed to groan under her presence. She didn't say a word. Jason, her husband of 11 years, barely glanced up. His phone had all his attention, texting, smiling, silent. Laura wasn't stupid. She'd seen the signs for months. The change in cologne, the locked phone, the way he flinched when she reached for him in bed. They used to be partners. She had helped him through every failure, every loan rejection, every bitter investor who didn't believe in his startup. While Jason chased dreams of prosperity and wealth, Laura worked double shifts at the nursing home, managing diapers, pills, and patients who mistook her for their long-lost daughters. She gave everything for him: her money, her time, her body, her health. And what did she get in return? By the end of that week, she got her answer. It was a Friday night when it happened. She came home late, exhausted, arms sore from lifting patients all day. She walked through the door and saw Jason standing by the kitchen island, suitcase by his feet. His eyes didn't hold pity, only relief. "I'm leaving," he said, calm as if he were announcing dinner. "There's someone else." Laura stared at him, heart pounding in her ears. "She's 26. Her name's Monica, and unlike you, she values herself. She takes care of herself." The knife twisted deep. "She's not dragging around 300 pounds of dead weight." Those words, they didn't leave bruises on her skin, but they crushed something inside her. Something that had already been cracked for years. He left with that final blow, taking his dreams, his suitcase, and the last pieces of her self-worth with him. That night, Laura sat on the living room floor, surrounded by the quiet hum of the heater and the ticking of the old clock Jason never got around to fixing. She didn't cry. Not right away. She sat in silence, staring at the family photo still hanging on the wall. Him in a suit, her in a dress she hated. Fake smiles. When the tears finally came, they didn't stop. She wept for the money she'd spent to help him build his company, for the time she could never get back, for the dreams she buried so he could chase his, for the body that held the scars of pregnancies that never made it to term, for the way she forgot her own name while trying to be someone else's entire world. She had been the backbone of his ambition. The nurse, the cook, the therapist, the investor. And now, she was disposable. That weekend, no one called, no one visited. And for the first time in over a decade, Laura was completely alone. But in that silence, something small began to shift. On Sunday morning, she walked past the mirror in the hallway and stopped. For years, she had avoided her own reflection. But now she looked, really looked, puffy eyes, stained hoodie, belly hanging over her waistband, her face pale, round, tired. She whispered out loud, "This can't be it." And something in her voice cracked, not from pain, but from power. For the first time, Laura wasn't thinking about Jason, or Monica, or the betrayal. She was thinking about her, and for the first time in years, she realized her story wasn't over. It was just about to begin. The snow began to melt that week, turning sidewalks into slush and the sky into an endless gray ceiling. But inside Laura's heart, Something had cracked open. Not like a break, more like a door. By Monday morning, she'd made a decision. She walked into the local YMCA wearing an old hoodie, sneakers with a worn-out sole, and fear twisting in her stomach. The woman at the front desk looked up and smiled politely, but Laura felt the eyes of others in the lobby. Slim women in leggings, retired men sipping protein shakes. Everyone looked like they belonged. She didn't. Not yet. "Hi," Laura said, voice barely above a whisper. I want to sign up." The woman nodded. "First time?" Laura forced a smile. "First time in a long time." She paid for the month using her last bit of leftover holiday money. That hurt. But for once, she told herself, this was worth it. She was worth it. Her health mattered. And for the first time, she was investing not in Jason's dreams, not in someone else's business, but in her. It wasn't pretty. The first day, she walked on the treadmill for 12 minutes and nearly cried. Her knees ached, her chest burned. She looked around and saw no one like her. But she kept walking. 12 minutes became 15 by the end of the week. In the locker room, she avoided mirrors. Still, it was too soon. But she listened. To conversations, to laughter, to women talking about weekend plans, grocery prices, family drama. It reminded her that life was happening outside the small world she'd been stuck in for so long. That Friday, she sat alone in her car after her workout. Rain tapped the windshield. She pulled out a notebook, a cheap one from the dollar store, and wrote 3 words at the top of the first page. Laura's real life. And then she wrote what she wanted. Not just numbers on a scale, but real things. To feel strong, to climb stairs without pain, to stop hiding behind sweaters in summer, to smile in photos again, to never ever let anyone tie her value to her weight again. By mid-February, she had dropped 10 pounds. Not much, but something. She didn't tell anyone. Not yet. This wasn't for praise, this was for power. Meanwhile, Jason was nowhere. Well, not nowhere. He was all over Facebook, posting pictures with Monica, new suits, fancy dinners in Boston, hashtags about prosperity and living your best life. Laura looked once, maybe twice. Then she unfollowed him. Because every minute spent watching someone else's version of success was a minute not building her own wealth, not just the kind measured in dollars, but in dignity, in peace, in true values that last. One day, she overheard 2 women talking in the gym cafe. "Jason Miller?" one of them said. "That's Laura's ex, right?" The other rolled her eyes. "Yeah, left her for that blonde, Monica something. Heard he made a ton of money with some software thing." Laura kept walking, head high. She knew what they didn't. Money without integrity means nothing. Prosperity without loyalty is poison. She still had a long way to go. But each morning she woke up and pulled on her sneakers, even when it hurt. She knew she was building a kind of wealth no one could ever take from her again. By the end of that month, she had lost 16 pounds. Her face looked different. Her eyes were brighter. Her laugh came quicker. And one night, as she lay in bed with a heating pad on her back and soreness in every muscle, she smiled. Because pain meant movement, and movement meant change. She was just getting started. March rolled in like a wet dog, cold, messy, and unwanted. Snow turned to rain, and the sky hung heavy over Springfield like a soaked blanket. But Laura was past caring about the weather. Every morning, she showed up to the YMCA in her oversized hoodie, walking shoes, and stubborn determination. By the first Saturday of March, she had lost 23 pounds. She didn't tell a soul. No social media posts, no selfies in gym mirrors. She didn't need validation anymore. She was done begging the world to see her value. She was starting to believe in it herself. But the truth was, she was exhausted. Change doesn't come in clean lines. It comes in waves. Some days Laura felt like she could conquer the world. Other days, she sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, convincing herself to go in. And one day, she didn't. That Tuesday, she stayed in bed, ordered takeout, didn't move. That voice, the old one, whispered again. "You'll always be the fat one. You'll never finish anything." This is why he left. She lay there under the covers, hands on her belly, tears on her cheeks. But then something caught her eye, her notebook, still open, still waiting. She reached for it, flipped to the last page. There, in shaky handwriting from a week ago, were the words she had written. "I don't need to be thin to be valuable. I need to be healthy to be free." Laura sat up, wiped her face, and called her Jim. "Hi," she said, clearing her throat. "Is Jenny the trainer in today?" Jenny was the only one who smiled without pity. The one who, a week earlier, had said, "If you ever want help with strength training, I'd be honored to work with you." They met that afternoon. For the first time, Laura picked up weights, small ones, 5 pounds each. But to her, they might as well have been bricks of gold. She lifted, shook, sweated, cried. Jenny didn't flinch. "This isn't just about pounds," she said. "This is about power." Laura kept coming back, 3 times a week. Bit by bit, her world expanded. She learned how to cook food that actually fueled her body, learned how to say no to junk and yes to her future. She even started watching YouTube channels about nutrition, wealth mindset, and personal values. One night, she stayed up until 2 in the morning watching a video titled, "How to Build Prosperity from the Inside Out." That word, prosperity, stuck with her. It wasn't about money alone. It was about freedom. It was about not begging anyone for crumbs of love or approval. It was about creating a life where she no longer had to shrink herself, emotionally or physically, to fit someone else's small idea of her worth. By the end of March, she had lost 31 pounds. People started to notice, not just the weight loss, the glow, the way she walked taller, talked clearer. At the grocery store, Mrs. Kendall, her old neighbor, blinked at her. "Laura, honey, you look different." Laura smiled. "I feel different." One morning, she caught herself humming in the shower. She hadn't done that in years, not since long before Jason had sucked the air out of every room they shared. She was working overtime now, not because she had to, but because she wanted to put more money into a savings account she'd opened in her own name. For the first time in over a decade, she had a private account, her own safety net, her own future. No one could touch it. It wasn't a fortune. But to her, it was wealth, a promise to herself. A new car, a weekend trip, a business idea. She didn't know what she'd use it for yet. But what she did know was that her life was no longer a reaction to someone else's decisions. It was hers. And no amount of rain in Massachusetts could drown that kind of growth. By the time April arrived, the streets of Springfield had finally started to thaw. Small tulips began pushing through cracked sidewalks. The air smelled like wet dirt and possibility. And Laura, she was blooming right along with it. She'd lost 42 pounds by the second week of April. But more than that, she had gained rhythm. She no longer had to fight herself to go to the gym. She craved the movement, the sweat, the rush of doing something for her, not to please, not to impress, but to heal. One Friday afternoon, while checking out at the grocery store, someone tapped her shoulder. "Laura, is that really you?" She turned and saw Hannah Price. They had gone to high school together. Hannah looked like she hadn't aged a day. Blonde hair still perfect, holding a toddler on one hip and almond milk in the other hand. "Oh my God," Hannah said, eyes wide. "You look amazing. I mean, wow. You've really lost a lot." Laura smiled. She didn't flinch. Not this time. "Thank you. Been working on my health," she said. "Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You look like a whole different person." Laura laughed gently. "Nah, same person, just a little more awake now." They chatted for a few minutes, but Laura noticed how Hannah kept looking at her outfit: fitted jeans, a clean blazer, hair pulled back into a neat bun. It wasn't flashy, but it was confident. Put together. Back in her car, Laura stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror. She hadn't worn makeup that day, but her skin looked clearer, her jawline more defined, her eyes sharper. She started to wonder, if people were noticing on the outside, how long until Jason did? She hadn't heard a word from him in nearly 3 months, but the silence wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful. Until one evening in late April, her phone buzzed at 8:31 p.m. while she was folding laundry. The name on the screen hit her stomach like a brick. Jason Miller. For a long second, she just stared at it. She answered. "Hello?" There was a pause. Then his voice, low and familiar. "Hey, Laura, I wasn't sure you'd pick up." She didn't respond. I've been meaning to check in. I heard from someone that you've been, doing really well. You look great." That old part of her, the one that always bent to please, that used to melt at crumbs of attention, started to wake, but she didn't feed it. "I'm focused on my health," she said, "and rebuilding, not just my body, but my values." Another pause. "Well, I was thinking maybe we could grab coffee sometime. Just talk, no pressure." Laura blinked. She had dreamed about this moment once, the moment he'd realize what he lost. Come crawling back, ask for her forgiveness. But now, sitting in a quiet apartment filled with clean laundry and calm energy, she realized something even more powerful. She didn't need it. "Thanks, but I'm good," she said. "Hope things are going well for you." And she hung up. She sat in silence for a moment, breathing slow and deep. Not from anger, not from heartbreak, but from peace. The next morning she got up early, put on her sneakers, headed to the gym. That day, Jenny bumped into her by the dumbbells. "You've been glowing lately," she said, grinning. "What's your secret?" Laura laughed. "Boundaries and protein." They both cracked up. Later that night, Laura wrote in her notebook again. "I no longer chase validation. I build wealth, not just in money, but in self-worth. I invest in my health like it's my most precious currency, because it is." She looked in the mirror before bed, not at what was gone, the weight, the pain, the man, but at what remained: strength, stillness, and something priceless growing inside her, prosperity that no one could ever bankrupt again. By early May, the sun had finally returned to Springfield, and with it came that buzz in the air, the promise of new beginnings. Sidewalk cafes reopened. Kids rode bikes past hydrangea bushes. And Laura? She was now 58 pounds lighter. But it wasn't just the weight. It was the lightness in her step, the steadiness in her breath, the way her laugh came freely now, like it had never been taken from her. She had bought new clothes, nothing extravagant, just jeans that actually fit, and soft t-shirts in colors she never dared wear before. Coral, olive, mustard yellow. They looked good on her skin. She was learning to take up space without apologizing for it. One Saturday morning, Laura was sipping her coffee at the local farmer's market, checking out jars of raw honey and listening to live guitar near the fruit stand, when she felt a tap on her arm. Laura? She turned. Monica, in leggings and sunglasses, hair pulled into a too-tight ponytail. There was a long silence. Laura blinked. Monica looked different, less polished, more tired. "I thought that was you," Monica said, forcing a small smile. "You look amazing." Laura raised an eyebrow. "Thanks. Didn't expect to run into you." Monica shifted. "Yeah, well, Jason's not here. I mean, we're kind of on a break." Laura waited. Monica sighed. "His company's in trouble. He won't admit it, but the money's tight. Investors pulled out and—" She stopped herself. Realized she was saying too much. Laura didn't say a word. Monica bit her lip. "He mentioned you, you know. Said he tried to call a while back. Said you weren't open to reconnecting." Laura looked at the honey jars. "I'm focused on my health." Another beat of silence. "Anyway," Monica said, backing away, "it was good seeing you." "You too." Monica walked off, and Laura turned back to her coffee. She didn't feel smug. She didn't feel petty. She felt free. Later that night, Laura called Jenny. "Think I'm ready for more," she said. Jenny laughed. "More what?" "More challenge. More strength training. Maybe even sign up for that community 5K. Jenny's voice lit up. "Now that's what I'm talking about." Laura had never run in her life, but something inside her, something new, something wealthy with energy, said, "Let's go." She started training. Slowly, walk runs, sore calves, early mornings. She kept her journal close. Prosperity isn't always money. Sometimes it's waking up with purpose. That's a kind of wealth, too. By mid-May, she was 68 pounds down. Meanwhile, rumors about Jason's company started spreading. Layoffs, lawsuits. A big client backed out. The big win he used to brag about on Facebook was starting to fall apart. Laura didn't gloat. She knew the cost of building something on shaky values. You can have all the money in the world, but if your foundation is pride and cruelty, it eventually collapses. One night, she got another call from him. She didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "Hey, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but things have been rough. I could really use someone to talk to. You always had a good sense for business and people. You were the one who believed when no one else did. I miss that. I miss you." She sat in silence. Jason was circling back, not for love, but for help, for grounding, for the wealth she had built from the ground up, alone. She deleted the message. That night she stood in front of the mirror, shirt pulled up slightly, tracing the shape of her waist. Still round, still soft, but hers, earned. She whispered to her reflection, "I am not your emergency exit." She smiled. Not because she wanted revenge, but because she had something even better. Power, real health, and a future built on solid values, not the fragile ego of a man who couldn't handle a strong woman shining on her own. June arrived with the thick, sticky heat Massachusetts is known for. By the first weekend, people were out grilling, mowing lawns, sipping iced tea on porches. Kids ran through sprinklers. It was the kind of summer that made everything feel possible. Laura stood in front of her closet, staring at a simple red sundress she hadn't worn in years. It used to fit like a sausage casing. Now it slid over her body with ease. She'd lost 83 pounds. That Sunday, she wore the dress to a small business mixer at a local cafe. Jenny had invited her, saying, "You gotta come. You've got a story people need to hear." Laura almost didn't go. Then she remembered what she'd written in her journal the night before. Comfort zones don't build prosperity. Courage does. The cafe was filled with Springfield locals, entrepreneurs, artists, health coaches, and folks who believed in rebuilding from the inside out. She talked to a woman who ran a wellness studio. Another who had started a meal prep service for busy moms. They asked Laura questions, not about her weight loss, but about her mindset. "You have this presence," one of them said, "like you've rebuilt yourself from the ashes." Laura smiled. "That's exactly what I did." Halfway through the event, a man from the local paper approached her. "I heard about your story through Jenny," he said. "Mind if I feature you in the wellness spotlight for July?" Laura hesitated, then said, "I'd be honored." That night, she texted her sister for the first time in months. "I'm doing well. You were right. I had to lose more than weight. I had to lose people who didn't value me." Her sister replied with one word: proud. But not everyone was doing well. Jason's name popped up in a Springfield business forum. Bankruptcy filings, legal issues with vendors, clients pulling out. Word spread fast. Then, 2 weeks into June, Laura's phone buzzed. Jason Miller, again. This time she picked up. "Laura," he said, voice hoarse, "please, I need to talk." She said nothing. "I lost everything. The company. Monica's gone. I'm staying at my cousin's place in Worcester. I got nothing left, and—" Laura stopped him. "Jason, what do you want from me?" He breathed hard. "I need your help. I know you always understood business. I need advice, connections. You knew how to talk to people. I never listened, and now—" She cut in. Calm. Clear. "You left me when I was nearly 300 pounds. When I was supporting you with my money, my health, my time. I know, I was stupid. No, you were cruel." Silence. "I'm not your fallback plan. I'm not your emotional ATM. You don't get to throw me away and then come back when life goes dry." Jason's voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say." Laura exhaled. "You don't have to say anything. This isn't revenge, Jason. This is boundaries. This is prosperity, and I built it without you." She hung up. That moment wasn't about payback. It was about closure. Laura went for a walk after that. The evening air was warm, and the neighborhood smelled like lilacs and barbecue smoke. She passed by her old favorite bakery, the one she used to binge from after every argument. Now she walked past it like a museum exhibit. It no longer held power over her. At home, she lit a candle, brewed herbal tea, and opened her journal. Wealth is walking away without guilt. Health is knowing who you are when no one's watching. Real prosperity is not measured in money. It's in how you protect your peace. She closed the notebook and smiled. Jason was falling apart. She was rising higher than ever. And the gap between them wasn't just pounds or dollars. It was values. The 4th of July came with a bang. Fireworks burst over the Connecticut River, families grilled in their backyards, and laughter echoed through the streets of Springfield. The whole town felt alive. Laura, now down 97 pounds, watched the fireworks from a rooftop patio. She wore a navy blue dress that hugged her waist and fell just above the knee. Her shoulders were bare. She didn't flinch when people looked, because now, when they looked, she knew what they saw. Not just the weight loss, but the peace, the presence, the strength. She had become magnetic. The local newspaper had printed her story that week, a 2-page feature titled "From Abandoned to Empowered: A Springfield Woman's Journey to Health and Self-Worth." The article went viral in the community. Strangers recognized her at the gas station. Nurses at work asked her for tips. A small gym in Boston even reached out to see if she'd be interested in speaking on a wellness panel. She was being seen not just as Jason's ex or the big girl from the neighborhood, but as a woman with purpose. A woman who had built a new life from the ashes. One Thursday afternoon, Laura walked into a local cafe for an iced coffee and froze. Jason was there. He looked smaller, thinner in a way that didn't seem healthy. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and he was hunched over a laptop that looked like it had seen better days. He saw her, stood, nervous, desperate. "Laura," he said. She nodded. "Jason, can we talk?" She looked at the clock. It was 3:02 p.m. She had somewhere to be by 4. 15 minutes, she said. Calm, clear. They sat. He sighed. "I've lost everything." "I heard," she replied, folding her hands. "I was wrong. About so many things. About you. About what mattered. I thought money and success would bring happiness, but I burned everything chasing an image." She waited. "You were the only one who believed in me, who gave me real love, and I threw it away." There were tears in his eyes, but Laura didn't feel the urge to comfort him, not because she hated him, but because she no longer needed anything from him. "I was never your problem, Jason," she said. "I was your partner. You just didn't know how to value one." He swallowed hard. "I don't deserve a second chance." Laura leaned forward slightly. "You don't." He blinked. "Then why are you here?" She smiled. "Because I believe in closure, and because I wanted you to see what real prosperity looks like, not just in money, but in health, in peace, in wealth of soul. You could have had that, but you chose ego over love." She stood. "I have to go. I'm speaking at a panel tonight about personal transformation and self-worth. You should come, or maybe not. Either way, good luck." Jason sat speechless. Outside, the wind lifted her hair as she stepped into the summer heat. She didn't cry, didn't shake. Her heels clicked against the pavement with confidence. That night, at the event, Laura spoke to a packed room. "I used to think prosperity meant having the perfect marriage, the right body, and a full bank account. Now I know. Prosperity means choosing yourself every single day. It means honoring your health, protecting your values, and refusing to shrink to fit into someone else's version of success." Applause thundered through the room, and in the back, standing quietly by the door, was Jason. Alone. Watching the woman he once called a burden become the woman the world now admired. The heat in Springfield settled like a heavy blanket that August, but Laura felt lighter than ever. 98 pounds down. 1 pound away from the milestone she once thought was impossible. But the number didn't define her anymore. Her life did. On the morning of August 4th, she woke at 6 o'clock sharp. Not because she had to, but because her body was alive, energized, grateful. She made her usual breakfast: steel-cut oats, blueberries, almond butter. She brewed her coffee slow, watching the sun rise through the kitchen window. Then she sat at her small dining table and opened her journal to the last page. Final weight, 199 pounds. But the real measure of success? Peace, boundaries, freedom. That's prosperity. Later that day, Laura walked into a downtown community center where she had been invited to host a workshop. Transforming pain into power. The room filled quickly. Women of all ages, different shapes, backgrounds, stories, every one of them carrying something invisible. She took a deep breath and stepped onto the small stage. "My name is Laura," she said, "and for a long time I lived like my life was a debt I could never repay. But I learned something. Pain doesn't make you less valuable. It reveals your values. It teaches you how to rise." The women leaned in, some with tears in their eyes. "I lost 115 pounds, but I gained more than that. I gained health, real health, emotional clarity, financial independence. I gained wealth in the places no one can steal from you." Applause echoed through the room. After the talk, people lined up to speak with her, to hug her, to thank her for saying things they were too scared to say out loud. And in that moment, Laura knew. this was just the beginning. Outside, the late summer breeze danced through her hair. She took a slow walk down State Street, past the bakery she used to cry in front of, past the bank where Jason once begged for funding, past the cafe where she had told him goodbye. Now she was working on a book, a podcast, a coaching program, all built on the same foundation: real stories, real struggle, and real prosperity. She wasn't just healed, she was whole. 1 week later, Laura received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside, folded twice, was a note in Jason's handwriting. I finally understand what I threw away. I thought money made a man. But you had the wealth I was chasing all along. I'm sorry, Laura. I truly am. She folded the letter, placed it in her desk drawer, and never responded. Because she didn't need to. Forgiveness wasn't about them. It was about not carrying their weight anymore. That night, Laura stood in front of her mirror. Not to criticize, not to check pounds or scars, but to look herself in the eye and say, I'm proud of you. The journey had started with heartbreak, with a cruel betrayal, but it ended in rebirth. Laura had been abandoned, humiliated, overlooked. Now, she was respected, admired, free, and most of all, she had become the woman she had always dreamed of being, with her own money, her own health, and her own kind of wealth, rooted in values no man could ever break again. And you? Have you ever felt discarded, underestimated, or silenced? Have you turned that pain into something powerful? Tell your story in the comments. I'm listening.